Ah, that's expected. But so is this. Sorry, not sorry. Happy Halloween, and welcome back to... Aw, dang it. It's been a week since Halloween ended. Ah well, shit happens and the video got made anyway, so whatever. Welcome back anyway to the Pantheon of SANDBOX. This is the series where I draw up and lore down about the deities that oversee my original world. Make sure to check out the previous episodes on my channel or the playlist annotated above. On today's episode, we'll be continuing the spooky vibes from the previous episode. We covered the Reapers of my world last time, so let's cover who they report to, and his divine family too. Let's not waste time rotting in the grave, and get straight into the best boss and best dad of the afterlife, God of the Underworld, Hades! In my last video, I talked about how Anubis is a victim of what I refer to as the Hades effect, which I have now learned also goes by the trope name, Everybody Hates Hades. How apt. Instead of going over it again, I'm gonna have a friend read off the TV tropes page for me.
Death and the afterlife are scary. We fear death because we simply do not know what will happen to us once it inevitably comes a-knocking. So, by default, anything associated with death can't be good, right? And since bad guys do the dirty work, a god who brings death must be an evil one, right? Well, not always. Many religions throughout history have produced deities who rule over and/or represent some aspect of death or destruction, and are not portrayed as being malicious. They're not evil, they're just doing their job. Those dead souls won't collect themselves. Of course, that doesn't stop some modern writers from looking upon these otherwise benign beings and seeing nothing but an easy villain for their mythology-based opus. After all, who cares about accuracy? Viewers are morons, after all, and most people see death as something to loathe and fear anyway, so half the work is already done. And then there is the whole Satan analogue. Cultural myopia leads some in Christian-dominated America to expect that Hades is just the Greek version of the devil, when he's actually more of a cross between Saint Peter and God. It's also quite possible that they simply didn't know better, or were limited by time constraints and had to do something with what they had on the fly. To put it simply, this trope is invoked whenever an author takes an otherwise benign or at least neutral death-related deity and makes them evil for whatever reason.
Thank you, Bob. But yeah, I hate this trope a lot. It's only been good like twice, ever, and been terrible anytime else. Very glad we've been fizzling this out, and I want to contribute to that fizzle with my version. My Hades is lore accurate, like, he's a good guy. He didn't kidnap his wife, they have a great healthy relationship, he doesn't hate his job or hate mortals or other gods, unless they try to mess with him, his family, and the natural order of things like in the original myths. These morons had it coming. He's not evil, he's just a tired goth dad doing his job. Simple as that. Speaking of tired goth dad, that's basically what I wanted his design to be. I gave him dark and muted colors and comfy clothes, even a faded, very casual shirt only a dad would find hilarious even after all this millennia. Soft, ghostly flames coming from his body. I wanted to give him the vibes of a man who is exhausted yet thriving, who is also king of the ghost zone or something. Tired goth dad with a major job sorting souls to the afterlife, but is happy for the life he has regardless. He has a very monotonous job, but that just makes the time he spends with his quirky family even better. He wouldn't trade this eternity for anything. His powers focus on summoning armies of ghosts and shaping ghostly flames into any weapon he desires, and summoning soul chains, chains that bind down the very soul of a being from anywhere he can see. He can also summon the Reapers instantly to his side, as well as Cerberus. He's an Underworld-themed summoner and is a force to be reckoned with, despite his unassuming casual attire. Also, his ghostly crown can transform into a proper helm that he can wear to turn himself completely invisible and undetectable, even to divine or other dimensional eyes. This invisibility helmet is actually a thing Hades has in the original myths, and it's weird such a cool item isn't used more in Greek-inspired fiction. Like, the only time I've seen it is used in Percy Jackson. The book, not the movie, because the movie ignores it despite it being the main reason Hades targets Percy, but we just gotta make Hades basically Satan, despite the fact that wasn't how Hades was in both mythology and the book this stupid movie was adapted from to begin with. Fuck, I hate Hollywood so much. Leave my poor wholesome death boys alone. Sorry, I got a bit heated there, and I ran out of things to talk about with Hades. He's not that complicated. Let's quickly get some dopamine by also doing Cerberus' design. Not a lot to say about Cerberus, in a good way, beyond making his name meaning spot more literal than in the design, but I wanted to make my Cerberus a bit more reptilian in some aspects, because he is a child of Snake Dad and Snake Mom, aka the heads of my Pantheon, so to ignore the original snaky traits of goodest boy to the third power would be a crime to my own lore. So yeah, bonus snake doggo. Snuggo? Ew, no. Moving on. Next up, you can't have the king without his queen. Persephone! I don't think Persephone needs much intro. Fairly certain anyone that was interested in watching this video knows who the Greek queen of the Underworld is. However, her mother isn't Demeter in this world. If you recall in my second video of this series, I made Gaia meant to be the Mother Nature. There isn't multiple, she was just kinda shared between the pantheons of the old world. So since I'm deviating from the original myth already for my own thing, I thought why not in turn deviate from Persephone being the goddess of spring she's so popularly known as. Is it bad I'm inconsistent with how accurate or not accurate I make these gods? I'm just having fun. Who the hell cares? If anyone does care enough to grumble, well, I'm sorry you exist like that, you fucking grognard. So Samboxian Persephone is going to be a bit more unique. Instead of flowers and spring and shit, she's going to be goddess of beasts. I chose to change Percy for this role because, to my knowledge, there isn't really any god for the animal kingdom in any pantheon. Typically animals are lumped into the domain of nature as a whole, or some gods have mascots but of only very specific animals. So I figured the daughter of Mother Nature would be a good fit for a domain I think is extremely important both to the world and personally to myself, as animals are a major source of inspiration for me. Please read my webcomic or buy my animal spirit shirts. I also felt like every member of the Pantheon should each be important to the development and balance of the world and its inhabitants, and I don't think flowers and springtime are as important as animals, especially since her mother kinda covers the entirety of the environment by herself. Persephone I made to be a very kind, cheerful, and extremely passionate woman, especially when it comes to animals. Her infectious passion and positivity is what drove Hades to develop feelings for her to begin with. The rest you could say is history, or eternity, or divinity, or whatever. Don't worry, Greek fans, they are still a super healthy power couple. Speaking of powers, Persephone's powers are a hodgepodge of literally every animal's strengths combined and slightly exaggerated to boot. Think DC's Vixen, but way more overpowered as a goddess should be. She has random animal quirks and habits because that's just funny to me, going from typical cat behavior to death rolling like a crocodile or something. For design, I wanted her to be a lot more colorful than her husband, because their contrast is what makes them an adorable pair. I also took inspiration from the pomegranate fruit for her own shade of purple, a color I decided to unify the family with, and gave her a unique bell shape for her collar because she's animals, why wouldn't I give her a cute pet collar for style? I know the whole pomegranate thing is from versions of her story that make the relationship have dubious consent at best, but it's not actually part of my lore. It's more just taking inspiration from all sources for fun design details. Despite her garish chimeric outfit, she still has black clothes, some shades of purple, those ecto-blue eyes of the underworld the rest of her family has. She and her hubby are great because of their contrast, but I still want some details to connect them when you see them together as they are meant to be. I should clarify also that none of the animal bits of her outfit are taken from actual animals, like it's either faux furs or just part of her own power set. I do not dare make this sweetheart a fucking hypocrite regardless of the terrible standard of Greek gods. Also, fun world building fact. The beast folk of this world are called Persephone, or Persy for short, which is directly in reference to Persephone, for she is directly responsible for these furries being sentient. She has been directly involved in the evolution of most of the bestiary, including some of the monster folk that inhabit this world of mine. Also, I forgot to mention it in the Reaper video, but Anubis is responsible for mummies being a proper race in Sandboxian society too. Maybe one day I'll elaborate on the various people species that inhabit the world these gods made and are worshipped by. We'll see. Anyway, super happy with Persephone's design, and proud to have made an original take on such a commonly used goddess. Now that Goth Dad and Furry Mom are done, let's get to the best couples kids that not a lot of people know about. Well, I say that, but that's not the case anymore thanks to the hit indie game Hades and its upcoming sequel. And I ended up choosing the same two kids that Supergiant Games chose because they were the most interesting to me. Like, there's a handful of kids from various stories, and not only is there not much about them, but pretty much all of them are apparently a child of Zeus after pretending to be Hades to fuck Persephone, and we're going to not make that canon here because that's awful and I hate it. Moving on. First up is our Prince of the Underworld, Zagreus. Zag only recently came into my zeitgeist thanks to the first Hades game, so I had to do some digging on the original. From my short Google search, it turns out Zagreus is closely tied to the wine and party god Dionysus. I think as one of his many iterations before the Greek myth became solidified to what we know of it today. I'm not gonna go any further into that whole mess, so go watch someone else do it for me, like Overly Sarcastic Productions video about the good old party god, or someone else that you like the vibe of. Yeah, that is not my job here today. My version of Zagreus will be a disciple of Dionysus, carrying over the role of God of Revelry into the new world, since Dio wanted to party across the multiverse, but didn't want Sandbox to be without knowing how to have a good time. And hey, party till you drop. You know, like, drop dead like Underworld, because, you know, shut up, it's funny. Zags is a party animal, and since he embodies revelry and cheer, he's in charge of entertaining the souls that wait in the underworld until it's their turn to be sent to the afterlife by his father. The Prince of Afterlife Afterparties is responsible for keeping souls from being bored so they don't try to leave and start haunting mortals. Doesn't always work, but hey, it's the best party of dead I could have. Who could complain? No, really, who could with him? Zags has the power to create a several-mile-wide radius that induces pure revelry in whoever or whatever he wants within it. Even eldritch horrors can get distracted by a biting need to relax and rave. This feeling is intense enough to drive a mortal mad, in reference to his mentor who had the power to induce madness, cause wine. So yeah, he's a crazy good debuffer. Zags also inherited an ability from his mother I didn't mention till now. Basically because every individual is an animal of sorts, Zags and his mom can understand every person and creature, both in terms of language and in terms of feelings. Persephone uses this to fully understand the critters of her work, while Zagreus uses it to know how best to entertain others, understanding the inhabitants of nature in different ways. For his design I wanted to make him very Dionysus inspired, but not straight up clone of him. He needs to be his own person. I wanted something that felt like a combo of Hades' spooky goth vibe and Persephone's more colorful wild style. And the best I could think of to go with his role was a Halloween-y glam rock star. I took heavy inspiration from Brooke from One Piece and Mirror B from Pokemon to make this noodly, ultra-tacky funk master. I gave him some bone stuff like in his pants and his might to connect him to his home and family, while also having details connecting to his Dionysus origins like a grape necklace and his headphones having sheep horns, in reference to the satyrs that Dionysus is directly associated with. I also gave him an afro and a curly stash, both because of disco and its translation of both his dad's facial hair and his mom's more wilder hair. I don't know what else to say other than this design was very involved, and I'm weirdly happy how amazingly terrible he looks. I don't know why I like designs that hurt my eyes like this, but Zag came out very fun, like I wanted him to. If you hate how he looks, he wouldn't mind if that's how you feel. So long as you enjoy your life your way, that's all that matters to him in the end, and he def knows how to enjoy things at the end. And for the last god of the video, we have the Princess of the Underworld, Melinoe. In the original myth, she's the goddess of ghosts, which is a bit generic of a domain when your dad covers everything about the journey to the afterlife, including dealing with souls. So let's give her something equally spooky, but a lot more impactful for a domain, huh? In Sandbox, she is the goddess of nightmares, the embodiment of fear. She makes sure mortals have fear. She doesn't give people their fear specifically, she encourages their subconscious to develop them. Fear is just as important an aspect of life as any of the more positive domains. It encourages fight or flight and survival instincts, as well as inspires development of one's character, either something to conquer or to know one's limits to adapt to in life. She also explores the dream world often to induce people's dreams into nightmares, half to hopefully inspire something for that person, half just for her own amusement. You'll notice gods, despite not getting too involved in mortal drama, still like to have some fun with mortals from time to time. She's a Greek by blood, alright. Just like her little brother, she's an insane debuffer, but focused on creating a huge radius of controlled and concentrated fear, inflicting upon even eldritch horrors with fears and worries that would drive a mere mortal to wanting to not exist anymore. Like, interrupt her nap, for example, and you'll experience your trauma 100-fold. Your screams are like white noise for her as she snoozes. She's also able to summon like her father, but instead of an army of ghosts, she summons boogeymen, her own creations of pure nightmare fuel, ready to take her commands if the situation demands. Melinoe is very introverted, dreary, and deadpan, arguably even more goth than her dad. But despite how intimidating and hard to read she can come off, and how harsh she can be when pissed off, she's actually a sweetheart once you get to know her. She has a great passion for nightmares and what scares others, seeing it as a positive for all life to feel, even knowing exactly how to scare the other members of the Pantheon, because gods deserve to be humbled and feel alive all the same, as mortals do. Where her little brother's design isn't very spooky beyond some bones, Mel goes hard into her underworldian origins and gothic stylings. Melinoe's design is based on her original depiction, a half-dark and half-light body very akin to the goddess of the underworld from Norse mythology and daughter of Loki, Hel, which is super interesting, those wires crossed between cultures, huh? It was a bit difficult to make the black and white work while keeping to a profile pose, but I figured out some patterns that give her a unique look while keeping things from blending too much. I made her design more Halloween-y, taking a lot of inspiration from Perona from One Piece, Sally from Hot Topic's favorite movie, and some of that AI girl from Sonic Frontiers, because I thought she looked like a perfect little ghost girl. I wanted to nail the feel of Halloween with her, spooky and scary but still very colorful and fun. She came out frankly adorable, but with plenty of potential for being downright terrifying in some situations. Exactly what I wanted. I wish this was on time for Halloween, but whatever. Hell yeah, I love these designs. And there we have it! The Underworld's royal family! I hope you all enjoyed the video, even though it was late for the holiday it was meant for. I will be taking a hiatus from YouTube for the holidays, so subscribe to see my future videos in the future year. And make sure to check out the designs themselves on my DeviantArt. Thank you for watching, let's hope 2024 will be a less shitty year, and as always, have a good one!